Hi, everyone. This is Scott Baradell of Idea Grove with MarTech Talk, and today we're talking with David McInnis. Hi, David.
Hello.
David is the founder of PRWeb, and which has obviously revolutionized the news distribution space, and really, David, more broadly, can be thought of as a forefather for the whole news marketing space, so it's great to have you here to kind of talk about how all this started, how news marketing as a concept came about for you, and how you came upon the idea for PRWeb.
Well, so it all started. I was building websites for people back in 1994, 95, before people knew what a website was or that they needed one, and it was like the early days of the internet. And in 1990, I put out a press release on PR Newswire, and I was so excited to see, how it was going to blow up my business, because we were, really a good, strong web development company. And I thought it was just going to blow the doors off my business to put out this press release, and nothing happened, right? Nothing happened, and all I ended up doing was spending $650. And so I was thinking about that, and just kind of stuck in my craw, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, what is the function of a newswire? The function of a newswire should be to get my news story in front of as many people as possible. And when I realized that doesn't happen with traditional newswires, what traditional newswire does is take it and send it to the media. And back then, by the way, they were still using faxes to get some of these press releases out. Right? And so I thought, well, there's got to be a better way. And even if I just created an email wire and took in press releases and sent them out via email, that would be way more efficient, and I can do that. I don't have to charge people for that. I have the infrastructure. I can just build it and put it out there. And so that's what I did. And now I figured I had to make money on this somehow. And the only way I can make money without charging people was to drive traffic to the web pages, to the press release pages, and monetize that. And CPM rates were $40 CPM at the time, which was crazy. And so I spent, I figured if I did 1 million page views a month, I could make, $40,000 a month and take care of my family. And I spent 2 weeks developing this thing, and by the time I got done 2 weeks later, the CPM rates had dropped to $3. But I kept building it, and I treated it as a sandbox, and I worked on search engine optimization. This was before Google was a thing, and so we were going to InfoSeek and all the different site search engines, and really optimizing placement in search engines for these press releases, and they were getting quite a bit of traffic. And it was when Google came online, we had instant kind of page rank, and so we were an instant authority. And so our optimization, or our visibility engine at the time, was the search engine, right? We figured if we could have our stuff well placed in the search engine, drive traffic back to the press release on our site, and it worked. We had all the search traffic coming. We had a lot of people scraping our site, the search engine scraping our site, but this traffic, and it turned out to be for us that what was good for us was actually good for the people who were our service. And people caught on. And when Google came on and started ranking on PageRank, there was a subset of people that found that actually it was a great way to get backlinks to your website. So some people played on that part of the press release service, but for us it was always about the visibility. And then our service really blew up, kind of just took off. I mean, it was on a bit of a hockey stick anyway, but after 9/11, when Google News and Google Alerts came online, and we were very well positioned in Google News, and Google Alerts were getting hit, that it was just really.
So when did Google News start?
I don't have an exact date. In my mind, it was around the 9/11 time period.
Mm-hmm. And it must have been amazing, because by the time I was, I'd always been in corporate communications, but by the time I was putting these releases out there for clients, I started Idea Grove in 2005, and in that time, and I'm sure it was just amazing to see that despite Business Wire or PR Newswire press releases costing quite a bit more than PRWeb news releases, PRWeb news releases had far more visibility in Google, as easily evidenced by a Google News search, than these much more expensive and more established wire services.
I think that comes down to business model, right? Their business model is licensing content. My business model was visibility, right? I didn't have the tens or hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure behind me that I had to cover, right? And so my business model was a little bit different in that I was trying to drive traffic to press releases, and I was going direct to consumer. I think that's the nomenclature I used at the time was direct to consumer PR. Right? I got the idea of if we could, if we could bypass media and go directly to the consumer. That's what I wanted initially, and so that's kind of what I built.
Right.
And to disintermediate that whole news and reporting layer. But the business models are different, right? PR Newswire, Business Wire, I have friends at both places, but their business model is heavily based on licensing and protection of their content. And so, and it was never, their business was never set up as a direct-to-consumer play. And so I actually found that there was actually a lot of, by turning the press release into a marketing document, there was a lot of, that news format carries a lot more credibility than a direct mail piece, right? Just because of just the simple change in format. It can be the exact same message, but having that marketing piece in the form of a news story or a press release was a lot more powerful. And then having that in search engines where people were coming across it was a lot more powerful than just having a web page. And so our models were different.
Well, but at the same time, from my experience, increasingly journalists would use Google News search when they were researching stories. And so understanding that the news wires were traditionally, meant to, we're a wire service in the same way that the AP is or Reuters is, and we go into your terminals in the newsroom. And I was a journalist back in the 80s and early 90s, and we'd have our terminals, and we could go check out Business Wire or PR Newswire, just like we could check out the AP or Reuters or UPI or so forth. And the idea was, as journalists, we were the gatekeepers for that and decided what of that the consumer should see. And with the internet, as you put it, in revolutionizing the concept of news marketing, you put the news releases out there directly for customers to see, not needing the gatekeeper of the media to decide what they should see. But ultimately what happened is that journalists increasingly were not, using those traditional means of doing their research anyway. They were using the internet too. So if I'm putting out a press release through PR Newswire, and a journalist doesn't see it there, but they're doing the research on the internet, the journalist is more likely to see the PRWeb news release than the PR Newswire news release. And when you get to that stage, then that's when, if I'm running one of the traditional wire services, I start to get a little scared.
Yeah, so we recorded actually our first offer came from PR Newswire to acquire us, and we kind of passed on that.
What year was that?
initially, boy, that would have been 1995. A certain thing happens when you hit a certain revenue threshold, and people start to pay attention, especially I guess when you're digging into their bottom line.
Right.
But PR Newswire came at us with kind of, they started their courtship about 1995. It was kind of funny. We went up there to present PRWeb, and it was, of all the history of PRWeb, a few times that our service was undergoing like a massive growth phase, and our servers couldn't keep up, and so it was very hard to do even a demo. But yeah, so PR Newswire, and then Vocus approached us. Vocus was a PR Newswire partner at the time, back-ending their media database. And Vocus approached us, and we kind of turned them down, and then a year, wasn't 1996, 2006, I apologize. 2005, 2006. So we ended up selling to Vocus in 2006. But along the way, we had people like I'm just going to mention a few names: Greg Jarbell, for example, and Jamie O'Donnell and David Mim and Scott, and a lot of these people that actually started evangelizing the idea of and caught on to this idea of direct-to-consumer PR, and they started teaching people how to search engine optimize press releases, and I think they even made some tools to help people do that. But there was a huge movement about intermediating, that was a term back then, the mainstream media, right? And just direct-to-consumer. That's how blogging came up. Right? Did something just happen? Okay.
Oh, I just decided to share an example of a PRWeb press release today for those who want.
Which is now Cision, which is PR Newswire, right? So we're back.
Right, it's a come full circle. So Cision
Yes.
on everybody, right?
Yeah, but so PR Newswire eventually took it over, right? But yeah.
Well, yeah. What's the evolution in the ownership? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a Business Wire guy until I get my thing off the ground, but right now I'm a Business Wire. No real reason, I think. I have some really good. I made some really good friends along the way over Business Wire, and I just use Business Wire. Well,
Business Wire also, as I'm sure you remember, after you sold PRWeb, back when, frankly, there was a period of time when PRWeb was really just eating the lunch of the traditional services in terms of SEO, online visibility, and increasingly clients were wanting that. They're like, "Where's my press release? Why don't I see my press release when we put it out?" And so there was and my interpretation of it was, at the time, again, this is maybe 2006, 2007, that kind of period, 2008. There's a period of time when Business Wire teamed with PRWeb, teamed with Vocus to create what they call this Eon service. Does that ring a bell?
Right. So that deal came down exactly the same time the Vocus deal came down, and I almost canceled the Vocus deal because of the Business Wire deal.
Oh, really?
I ultimately did not. But we were able to go on and create the Eon service and back-ended, really the back-end for that service, basically. It was a pretty powerful concept. I think that what caused me the most concern, and if you go back and look in about maybe late 2003, early 2004, I was really concerned because people were they were using the platform to game Google, to actually build backlinks and trade on our page rank, and I was really nervous because that seemed to be our one pillar that was left. We had our Yahoo news syndication agreement in place, and we were paying for that, but I was afraid that if this pillar of Google, which was so powerful, got yanked out from under us, that they just took our PR away and said, hey, you know what, we don't like companies that are trading on PageRank, then they could eventually just kill the business.
Right.
And eventually they did. It was about 2013 or 14 that they actually killed the business, right?
Right. Was that what, a penguin, panda, one of those animals, right?
Yep. Well, one of the later versions. So I started shoving a bunch of things under it to prop it up and give it some more pillars. And the biggest thing that I went after was the social media stuff.
Mm.
We had trackbacks inside of press releases. People probably don't even remember what trackbacks are.
Yes,
right?
I remember.
We had trackbacks. We were doing podcasting. We were doing cloud tags. We were throwing every bit of social media soup at the thing, just to make it. And we worked at a breakneck pace to do that. And I think we launched like 9 different technology enhancements in 1 year. And so that's something else that we could do that Business Wire, PR Newswire couldn't do is turn on that kind of a dime, just build their technology platform that quickly.
It's almost like in the same way that, and I having, my last corporate job before I started Idea Grove was being VP of CorpCom for Belo Corp, which at the time was a 160-year-old company, $1.5 billion company, but like all traditional media was having rings run around it by the new online media that didn't have all the baggage of infrastructure and printing presses and existing business models. And I think in the same way you had Business Wire and PR Newswire who had been doing things a certain way, and even though maybe they saw the writing on the wall, it was very difficult for them to adjust, let alone to kind of introduce these flurry of innovations and adaptations to what was happening with digital and with social media that you were able to do with PRWeb.
I think traditional media still is struggling to find its way online. I think a lot of traditional media still thinks in terms of column inch, and my local paper, for example, when I subscribe to their online, they're hell bent on giving me a printed copy. Right? That's not the way I consume my media. I just want the online version. So there's even now there's still struggling with how to monetize properly and how to make media work online, which is crazy. I mean, media, there is more to internet news and stuff than Twitter, right? It's really aggravating how much reliance there is on Twitter to me. Since to me it seems like only the media cares about what happens on Twitter, right?
Right. Well, it certainly cuts down on research. It reminds me back in the day, pre-internet, when I was a journalist and you wanted to get opinion on something or see what the man on the street thought, you'd actually go on the street or you'd go to the mall and talk to people. What do you think about this whole thing that's happening in the news? Now it's like, click, I just go on Twitter, and now it's amazing how many stories get written where it's literally just, this is what people are saying on Twitter. It's like Twitter curation. It's amazing. It's amazing.
There's so many other opportunities out there. So I just think, I think, for example, the big opportunity for the online news visibility space is content marketing. Amplification. Some of that amplification can happen in social media, but I think a lot of that amplification can happen in native regular placement type formats. And so that's why I created Cranberry, as a news marketing company.
Talk a little bit about Cranberry and what you do.
Well, Cranberry, we've since kind of shelved that as a concept. I mean, it's a website that's out there, but I'm not pushing anymore. But what we did with Cranberry was we created this native content marketing unit. Basically, it was a summary of your news story that appeared in line with other content on the internet. So it wasn't a banner ad or something like that. It was actually in line, and it took on it was native, which means it took on the look and feel and the fonts and of the website that you were on. And so it was a way to drive traffic and increase engagement. Our bounce rates were so much less, about half of what traditional bounce rates are and stuff like that. So, and increased engagement. So it was a really powerful tool. I got frustrated, quite frankly, with the ad space in general. And with ad exchanges, I think there's a lot of clicks in that space. And so I stopped pushing that product. We had great results with it, but I decided that I'm going to go put my passion and energy somewhere else.
And what you're doing now is you're looking at getting back into the news distribution business with using blockchain technology. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm developing I developed a concept that I call conveyance, and conveyance PR is what we're probably going to market with. It's a newswire service that is blockchain authenticated, which means we're going to turn the newsroom, the corporate newsroom or the company website into the point of distribution. So if you could think right now what happens when you send out a press release, it's a very centralized model, right? The press release goes into Business Wire or the press release goes into PR Newswire, and it resides on their server, and maybe it gets read 3,000 times on their server. Okay, you can go in the analytics and you say, hey, this press release has been viewed 3,000 times. And then you go into your stuff and you say, well, I got 6 clicks off of that. There's 3,000 views, right? And everybody's statistics are the same because I've reviewed enough of them to know.
Right.
So what we're proposing, just so everybody knows, that's a picture from like 10 years ago.
You look exactly the same.
So anyway, so this was the idea is to pull that press release closer so that the actual company reaps the benefit of that traffic. So those 3,000 page views aren't going to Business Wire or PR Newswire, but they're going to the company's website. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so now it's not. Hey, I got 6 clicks from my press release after 3,000 people read it on Business Wire. No, I got 3,000 page views on my website. My website lives there. I control the entire environment around my website, my calls to action, and my other marketing collateral, whatever I want to put on my website around, and however I want to frame my press release. But all that traffic now goes back to. So it's a very decentralized approach, and blockchain is ideal for that.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then my great grand plan is to decentralize the whole content news syndication space, because I'm a little bit fed up with the control of AP and some of the right. Those
so what would that look like? What would that look like?
AP Reuters.
Yeah.
How they control the whole news flow, the news cycle. And so it would be just a big decentralized database. The thing that blockchain is really good for is decentralization. Mm-hmm. Opposed
to the AP being the gatekeeper and the arbiter of what's news to then distribute out to be shared.
We don't need that anymore because we have smart contracts. Right? The blockchain brings smart contracts into the picture where if you want to syndicate a piece of content, you don't need a middle layer or middleman like AP or Reuters to settle that transaction for you, when you can do it real time on the blockchain.
Well, and of course, there's this whole issue of AP content. How useful is that for a newspaper or publication anymore? It's in the eyes of Google, or when you're searching, it's just duplicate content now, right? It used to be when I was just looking at your outlet in my town, then that was the only place I was going to see that. Now I just question the value of it based on how people see news today. Besides the fact that it's basically curation of which stories everyone's going to carry, it would seem like it would be beneficial to the outlets to have more to choose from, so they're not essentially sharing the same wire content, news wire content that that everybody else is.
And it's decentralized and it's trustless, right? And so the important part is that it's trustless, and because it's trustless, you can actually go back and verify the source of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's a completely open system, you can trace back to the origin of a story, and very quickly find out if it's legitimate news. Right?
So yeah, so how does blockchain technology help ferret out fake news?
That's the whole objective of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And it can also ferret out fake journalists, right? Because now if you have a credentialing that is open and transparent and not controlled by the fourth estate, right? then people can be qualified as journalists. Very transparent, and you know the origin and author of every story out there. So, blockchain provides ultimate transparency.
And when do you think we'll be hearing more about conveyance?
I'm working on it actively right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. If people want to help me do it.
Are you taking on investors?
I haven't thought about that, but I'd be willing to take on people who want to partner with me. Or I don't think it's a thing that we may have an ICO at some point.
Yeah.
Because it will be a tokenized based system.
Yeah.
Just because we do need to be able to settle smart contracts and syndicate content.
Well, you've obviously been a visionary in this space of news marketing, and well, how long, we were talking about monetization and ICOs and things. How long was PRWeb free before PRWeb started charging for news releases?
So PRWeb was free
the whole time you had it.
The whole time I had it. So let me qualify that, because I know people spent millions of dollars on press releases at PRWeb.
Yeah.
I struggled with how to take something that was free and had a bunch of banner ads on it and take it to something that didn't have any banner ads and try to make some money. I think when I was running the whole banner thing, I think my highest revenue month was $67, right? And so I had to do better than that. And so what I did is I just said, hey, it started with the gold star. I said, hey, if you contribute any amount of money to the thing, to PRWeb to help us maintain it, we'll give you a gold star and we'll highlight your press release. And that thing took off, right? And then now for the first time, $80,000 the first year in just $10 contributions. So it was very much a contribution-based thing, but in return we stripped away all of the advertisements and made the press release the star of the page. Mm-hmm. And then we started adding other services, and so you could say we did have minimum contribution levels for each of those. And so we were charging. I love that model, by the way, because if somebody wasn't happy, we just gave them the money back. In my mind, it was a contribution. It wasn't money for services. And so, if you're not happy, whatever, we just refund your contribution. So it was a very kind of user-friendly format. So something that went from a freemium to kind of a contribution-based deal to eventually, you could say we were charging, but and then got rolled into products as a commercial product with Vocus. And Vocus started selling bundles and packages of press releases.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, and looking, I'm going to let you go, but I wanted to ask you one last question, which is, as coming in as a visionary in the news marketing space and seeing all the consolidation that's happened, as you mentioned. Cision has PR Newswire, PRWeb, Vocus is part of Cision, Gorkana. I mean, it's there's been incredible consolidation, as well as all Business Wire, PR Newswire, Cision. I mean, all these players are really trying to become technologically more savvy in this whole marketing technology space, which is exploding. How do you see news marketing as a concept fitting into this larger marketing technology space and going forward?
Well, I think if those companies stood back and started thinking about their customer a little bit more, right? What would benefit their customer more would be more visibility, and made their services a little less about them and more about their customer. They'd have something, right? They wouldn't need me to come in and create conveyance, right? And if anybody from Peer Newswire Business Wire is just think the easiest thing you can do is retool your corporate newsroom offering, right? Then you could stop me dead in my tracks with what I'm trying to do. I mean,
how so?
Well, the newsroom offering is so what the problem PR Newswire and Business Wire have is that they have to control that press release because it contains many times financial disclosure information. And so, for example, if Cisco puts a press release out on their website today, and then tomorrow goes and replaces the copy or the text of it with information that's different, then they've substantially changed there's no accountability.
Right.
So this is why PR Newswire are kind of the trusted source for that.
Right.
Press release. They need to frankly be giving away their newsroom product, right? And letting the client completely brand a newsroom product that's been given to them. It would increase the customer loyalty. It would improve the proximity of that press release to that company website, and it would still give them the control that they need. So I think that they could take conveyance on in a pretty significant way, just by retooling their newsroom product that they really want to monetize, right? But I think instead of monetizing the newsroom product, they give that away and really improve it in exchange for more of that press release volume. Anyway, I think there's opportunity there.
What's that?
I think there's opportunity there for them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give them the whole recipe, but.
Well, based on past experience, it's probably not going to happen, right? So you're probably going to have your opportunity with conveyance to show them again how to do it.
Yeah, and I think honestly the blockchain. I know there's a lot of hype around blockchain technology, but I think there's a place for it, and I think content syndication is one that's ripe. I think I know nobody's doing it that I've seen. I think there have been some people poking around the advertising space with blockchain, which would be good because there's absolutely no transparency and no truth in reporting from ad agencies and ad platforms. So I welcome that. But as far as content marketing and syndication, there's nothing out there.
Yep. Well, David, this has been fascinating. I really did not know the story of how far back PRWeb had gone and really the transformative effect it's had on so much of just the concept of the news release and what audience the news release is for and how the news release impacts your footprint online and so many things. So thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me, and hopefully we'll chat again sometime soon.
Really good, thanks.